are live. What's up, guys? Wes, the People's Pitmaster, back again for another episode of the Smoke Ring Syndicate. It's my weekly barbecue podcast that highlights barbecue lifestyles around the world and around the country. This week, we're joined by Joe Wilson. He's the founder of the World Squirrel Cook-Off Championship in Arkansas. Joe, are you there?
I am here, buddy. Glad to be with you.
Absolutely. So you founded I got that right, the World Championship Squirrel Cook-Off, right?
That is correct. You could shorten that by the WCSCO. But World Champion Squirrel Cook-Off is the event, man, and you're right. We're diving into over a decade of cooking tree bacon right here in Arkansas, and the limb chicken has never been finer than in September every year.
Yeah, I've never heard of call tree bacon before. It's I guess that's part of the allure of this is folks go, I guess maybe like Clark Griswold. I wish he was here because he eats those damn things.
Yeah, well, we eat those damn things too. As a matter of fact, our teams that show up, we've had teams from as far away as the Netherlands. We've
Wow.
had judges from Italy. We've had teams from damn near every state.
Yeah.
And these folks show up to provide a premier squirrel dish.
Mm-hmm. So, kind of walk me through. We'll kind of start at the beginning, and we'll get into the squirrel. What was your background before barbecue, before competitive food?
Man, I started catering when I was 14 years old, and I've catered banquets, I've catered office events since I was just a boy. And so live fire cooking, open fire cooking has always been one of my passions.
Yeah.
And as I've grown up, I've competed in everything from chili cook-offs to steak cook-offs, barbecue cook-offs. But wild game is one of those treasures that's that's kind of overlooked. It's overlooked by the public, the people who eat it. It's common fare, but for the general public, especially the urban public, eating a squirrel is the furthest thing from something they want to see on their menu.
Yeah.
Um, the truth is that's the wild game is the healthiest meat that we could eat. Anytime we go deer hunting, that deer it's during breeding season. So if
Yeah.
that animal is healthy enough to breed, he's damn sure healthy enough for us to eat. And I
Yeah.
can't say that for all the chickens riding around in them poultry trucks down the highway. So for us to showcase the smallest of wild game and turn it into these big meals that
Mm-hmm.
on game day, we're feeding thousands of people, and there's 8 to 10,000 people show up to our event. Um,
Wow.
I go to a lot of barbecue cook-offs and steak cook-offs, and the public's always playing third fiddle at those events. They very seldom show up to come to a cook-off.
Yeah.
Ours is completely different. The public lines up. Matter of fact, there'll be a traffic jam of people trying to get to the squirrel cook-off, and
Okay.
they're traveling from all across the country, man. There's Airbnbs rented up all over the place. It's hard to find a hotel room because we turned it into a festival and into a party.
Yeah.
Um, it is a true cook-off in the meaning that I take great pride in making sure that my judges are a top-notch judge. It's not the weatherman. It ain't the radio DJ who's coming in and doesn't
Yeah.
know what they're looking for. Our judges come in and they're qualified.
Yeah.
They know the difference between a fair product and a great product. Our cooking teams, that's where we differ from a KCBS or uh, one of the big organizations. Our cooking teams can be some old hippie who
Mm-hmm.
likes cooking squirrel.
Yeah.
or it could also be a former world champion. Um,
Yeah.
just our judges this year, some names that your listeners would recognize. You know, we've got Malcolm Reed
Mm-hmm.
coming in, and Malcolm's deal How to Barbecue Right and Killer Hogs.
Yep.
He sells a lot of product. He has a lot of viewers. Malcolm's one of our judges. Mark Lambert, 7-time world champion of
Mm-hmm.
barbecue. Mark's going to be judging, and he's also going to be providing the largest pot of rabbit fricassee ever cooked. We're going to try to do 200 gallons of rabbit. Uh, we've got Shane Lynn from Townsend Spice and Supply, who makes a lot of the competition rubs that your
Mm-hmm.
people are using. So we've got quality people, man, from top to bottom, and
Yeah.
this isn't something you can go to the grocery store and buy more squirrel. You
Yeah.
got to go out and hunt it.
Yeah,
And
and that was my part of my curiosity. I was like, okay, well, you got uh, some in the competitive world that you have to provide your own meat, and you can get an edge, with like cooking brisket. You got a choice, you got to select, you got a wagyu. That's not necessarily the case with a squirrel.
oh, it
So,
is, brother. It
well,
is
I mean,
because
no, in the thought of whoever's got the most money can buy the best squirrel, or
it's
is it?
whoever's got the most tick and chigger bites is probably going to provide the best squirrel because he had to hunt the most. So a little gray squirrel, that
Yeah.
would be our wagyu.
Okay.
Uh, a big old red fox squirrel, that'd be your select. I mean,
Okay.
there's a big difference between a little gray and a big old fox squirrel.
Yeah.
It's gonna take longer to cook, just like the difference between a choice brisket and a prime brisket. You know,
Yeah.
it's gonna cook better, it's gonna taste better. So you got to be selective when you're out there hunting, and you also got to aim small, miss small. You want to pop them in the head besides wreck that meat,
Yeah.
because your quality cuts on this squirrel is going to be the hind quarters and the back straps.
Okay.
Um, there's not a lot there on the front, and the saddle, which would be the rib cages. There's not a lot of meat right there. So, every team's going to have to probably have a minimum of 8 to 10 squirrels to do their turn in,
Mm-hmm.
but most teams will show up with 30 or 40 squirrels so they could provide the guests some groceries. Um, our
Interesting. That is.
teams have to cook an entree and a side dish. And so the entree has to have 80% of the meat used in the dish has to be squirrel. And
Mm-hmm.
that allows for 20% for other. So say you were making a gumbo and you wanted to add shrimp in your gumbo with your squirrel, that's fine. If you're making
Yeah.
a squirrel sausage, you could probably take an old can of
Pork.
spam and grind in there
Yeah.
and make you a decent sausage. So yeah, there's a lot of effort put into it, brother.
Okay. So now, I so you got the fox squirrel, you got the gray squirrel. Now, when I was up in New York a few years back, they've got like these. They're bigger than a gray, but smaller than a red. They're black squirrels. Is that a squirrel that you guys get brought in too, or is it only
Yeah.
like local squirrels?
No, so the meat that's brought into this deal will come from all over the country, and that particular squirrel you're talking about, the black squirrel, it's actually a fox squirrel, a red squirrel
Oh, it
that
is. Okay.
holds, yeah, it holds a dominant gene of being black, and so it's just a genetic trait, but it's the same as a fox squirrel.
Okay, I didn't know. I was like, I've seen red and I've seen gray, and I saw black, and I was like, I never seen a black squirrel before I went up north, and I was like, well, maybe that's like a delicacy that nobody knows about in the squirrel community, but sounds like you guys know.
Hey, if you want to, you could just call them Angus.
Angus. Okay.
You can call them Angus. It seems to sell pretty good. But
Yeah.
man, yeah, dude, we've we've turned this little critter into big meals, and I'm sure you know your listeners would be surprised to hear some of the things that's come about.
Yeah.
Um, we've had
So,
everything from squirrel ice cream to squirrel pizza. We've had squirrel sushi. Of course, a lot of Asian dishes, everything from cashew squirrel to egg rolls. A lot of Italian dishes. Squirrel goes good in meatballs. It can be used inside of a ravioli.
uh-huh.
Um, and all that exotic stuff,
Yeah.
we still have squirrel and dumplings and squirrel and gravy,
Yeah.
fried squirrel, and they compete and they walk.
Yeah.
They'll get they'll place just like some of this crazy stuff.
Okay. So you guys are utilizing KCBS judges, right?
We've got KCBS judges and State Cook-Off Association judges.
Okay.
Um, you know, that judging community, they always want to put their mouth around something.
Yeah.
And so they're itching to come and do something that's not standard.
Yeah.
And by no means are we standard.
Yeah. So they have to cook, the competitors, they have to cook a main dish and a side dish, both with squirrel, right?
Yes.
So is this, how is it like if you were to come in to be a competitor, you've got to cook two dishes. Are they both blind judged? Are they judged on site? And what are the
Yes.
judges looking for?
So it's really a standard cook-off scenario to where you're given a no divider to go box.
Yeah.
That to go box should be garnished. You can garnish it however you like.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, One thing that we do different than most organizations is we allow a little 3x5 card on the inside of the box
Mm-hmm.
that will describe the dish that they're turning in. Because sometimes we'll open up these boxes and we don't know what the hell's inside of that dish. We had one dish come in and look like cat shit on some bad mashed potatoes,
Oh.
and
Ooh.
and so if I had to tell the judges what they were eating, I would have said cat shit on bad mashed potatoes. But truthfully, it was a skinless squirrel bratwurst on some Guinness mashed potatoes. And so, with that being said, the judges are looking for typical things, man. They're looking for the tenderness of the squirrel,
Yeah.
the use of the squirrel, the taste, the overall, which is one of those tough things to be
Yeah.
judged on.
Yeah.
And so, the way that the appetizer pairs to the entree is also something. If you were making a fried rice with squirrel and tried to pair it with a meatloaf, that would be stupid.
Yeah.
So we want that side dish to pair with the entree.
Okay. So the side dish, and the entree, or the appetizer and the entree, whatever you want to call it, they're both turned in at the same time.
Yep, same box, judged by the same judge.
Okay. And now is it still judged by like all six people, or is it like,
Yep,
okay,
yep. So the way that we do this is at entry, you pull a token. Your token be 1 through 40. We only allow 40 teams.
mm-hmm,
And so if you're team 1 and 2, uh, 1 will go to the left side of the table, 2 will go to the right, odd and even deal. We have
yeah,
12 judges who judge 40 dishes. And you have 3 hours, roughly 3 hours to cook your meal.
okay. So squirrel's not necessarily a low and slow type food just because of its leanness.
Squirrel for most people would be low and slow. It seats well with like a confit to
Okay,
where you would do a low, real low and slow confit. Um, Hot and fast, it works. It works if you have cut it into small pieces, so it's easier
mm-hmm,
to chew.
yeah,
Uh,
that
so
makes
traditionally, people will pressure cook. They'll boil and then fry. There's all kinds of tricks to get it tender,
yeah,
uh, and all that stuff works. I tell people go ahead and chop it up into small pieces.
Yeah.
If you chop it up in small pieces, it's going to be easier to chew, and you really don't have to fight that tenderness thing.
Yeah. Okay. So you can kind of bypass the tenderness. I mean, like obviously grinding it for sausage would be a pretty easy way to get something that's nice and edible.
Yeah, man, it'd be like cutting a steak out of a brisket or grinding brisket for a burger.
Yeah. Okay. Makes
So
sense.
yeah, so that it's simpler on the tooth. But dude, we have fantastic teams that show up, and these people are they're gonna think about their dish for months upon months, maybe years
Yeah.
before they show up. And um, we try to eliminate a lot of the pressure that you would have in a standard competition thing
Hmm.
by adding music and laughter and sideshows and having the public being really, really involved in it. We don't have a People's Choice Award,
Hmm.
but the people are excited to come and taste these oddities.
Yeah. Well, and that's you had mentioned it was kind of it's more of a public event than it is a competition. Well, it's still a competition, but the public has actually got some interaction.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you've been in the world of competitive barbecue and all that, and everybody says, or a lot of people are going, well, what's in it for the general public? By the time they get there, the show's over. So
Right.
is it what differentiates what differentiates you from a regular barbecue competition? Is it a time turn in time that is more conducive to the time people are there, or is it a less pressure situation for the cook teams where they're okay with engaging in the public, or what sets you apart that makes it more of a fan friendly event
All
outside
of
of it?
the all of the above. Yeah. So our team start cooking at 9 in the morning, turn ins at noon, starts to turn in at noon. Um, we do 5 minutes between each pair of turn ins. So
Hmm.
1 and 2 turns in at 12, 3 and 4 turn in at 12:05. We span that out so everybody's dish gets to be eaten while it's warm. Um, the public's there's people who will dress up as squirrels to come to this event and walk around. Um, there's there's plenty of stuff for the kids to do. We do the world champion squirrel cleaning competition. We do the world's hottest squirrel wing eating competition. There's and all that's open to the public. If they want to eat the world's hottest squirrel wing, they can jump all over it and give that a go. Um, we've got 3 or 4 bands playing. Our competition teams are characters.
Yeah.
They interact, and it's a 3-person team. Used to be a 2-person team. We shifted over to 3 because we thought that maybe that third person could interact with the public because
Okay.
it was getting overwhelming because there was so much interaction with the public that the teams were they were struggling to turn in their dish. And so you could have 3 people back behind the table actually touching the meat. You could have 50 people in your area.
Hmm.
That's fine, but only 3 people can actually touch your dish.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
So I mean, and is it a requirement that they have to have all three, or I mean, can you
No.
be a lone wolf cook?
Yeah, we get those people every now and again who think they could come in by themselves and handle it, and it's real tough.
Yeah.
It's a real tough deal. I mean, anytime you could add assets inside your cooking area, you want to take advantage of them. So, um, it's a great deal, man. I'm the MC for the State Cook-Off Association,
Hmm.
and so every year you could see me standing up on the stage at the World Championship introducing people. So I've been blessed to be able to meet the world's finest grillers,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
the SCA last or this year at the World Championships, we had 14 countries there.
Hmm.
They all know me as the squirrel guy at the SCA, and so I got a lot of interest that way. Um, our event's been on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. We were on the Dr. Oz show. I was the first guy to ever shoot an animal on CBS Sunday Morning. Our very first squirrel cook-off was featured on Bizarre Foods on the Travel Channel.
Yeah,
And so we don't have to market the deal. It
yeah,
markets itself. I've
yeah,
never spent any money on marketing. I talk to people like you,
yeah,
and that's
yeah.
all I need to do.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of curiosity behind it, and I posted a couple of times over the last week, 2 weeks, since we set this up, and I had a guy. I work at a car dealership, and he came by the store a couple of days ago, and he goes, "I got a quick question for you." He said, "I didn't want to ask online. I needed to hear it from you." He said, "Are you talking to somebody about a squirrel cook-off?" I said, "Yeah." He goes,
Yeah,
"Is that real?" I said, "It's 100% real, baby." So
man, we've got
yeah,
our own
yeah.
custom beer this year, man. We've got a brewery making our squirrel broth is what we're calling it.
Okay.
And it's a custom beer. It'll be in a beer can. People can pick up those cans the day of the event. Um, if you want to follow what's happening on Squirrel Cook-Off, the only way to do it is through our Facebook page or by
Hmm.
finding a podcast or a radio show such as this. I have a podcast. We talk about it quite a bit called Cooking Up a Story with
Hmm.
Aaron and Joe's. You could listen to that podcast. We'll talk about you too, brother, on there. And you can hear great stories and sometimes we talk about the squirrel cook-off.
Yeah.
So it's September 23rd in Springdale, Arkansas. The event starts at 9 in the morning. We're wrapped up by 5 o'clock.
Okay.
There's going to be some killer trophies, good prize money, $1,000 to the winner. Um, and we're also giving a prize to 23rd place because everybody that cooks knows that sometimes you suck
Yeah.
and things didn't go your way.
Yeah.
So if you get 23rd place, there's a good chance that dollar amount will outweigh first place.
Really.
Yeah, it's because I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
So
It's yeah, and that's not dead last, huh?
no, you're somewhere just outside of the middle. So
Yeah.
yeah, we don't give a DAL.
Yeah.
We throw it in at a crazy time. The 23rd is because it's 2023, and
Okay.
that's the reason why we picked 23rd.
That's pretty clever. That's that means if you finish in the middle of the pack, you got a pretty good shot of getting your money back at least.
You're gonna get a lot of money back. It's gonna be a cool deal.
So I did have one question about when you come into like some cook-offs events, you cannot be out of the package. You can't be prepped. You can't be trimmed. Whereas some you can come in pre-trimmed, and I'm more or less like I'm thinking like chicken. You're scraping skin at the house and that sort of thing, and it's got to be in the original packaging. How does that work with a squirrel? Does it have to come in? Do they inspect it and say,
Yep.
okay, they're in the fur, or
No. So ours has to be whole, quartered, or halved, unmarinated, and that squirrel when we do meat inspection has to be under 40 degrees, and that's so we don't get any contraband squirrel brought into this deal. Someone might want to try to slide in a chicken or something, and so yeah, we take that real serious.
yeah? Well, that's I was just kind of thinking. I was like, like how does that work? Because this is all I've seen it in passing, but I've never had the opportunity to sit down and talk to somebody that knows squirrel, and
Yeah.
Joe knows squirrel.
Thank you, man. Hey, I appreciate you talking to me. I'm glad that we could do this deal. If you want to get back to me, after the squirrel cook-off, we could go through a complete walkthrough on how it worked.
Perfect.
I got to go on another show here in a second,
I
but
understand. I
man,
understand.
if your people are available, come out and see us in September in Springdale, and I can promise you a good time.
Absolutely. Joe, always a pleasure. We will catch you next time. And good luck with your squirrel cook-off.
Thank you, brother. Great show.
Thank you, Joe.
Bye.
And that'll put this week's episode of the Smoke Ring Syndicate in the books. If you've enjoyed this episode, we would encourage you to leave us a review, share us with a friend, and as always, keep smoking.